go on. Go on. Now, can you hear me if I talk like this? God has blessed me with loud pipes, so this is what I'm going to do. Now, as was read in the introduction, I have had the benefit of traveling and living all over the world. One of the places that I got to live was Rome, Italy, where, of course, I blended right in perfectly because they have a lot of 6'3" pasty white guys walking around. Unfortunately, when I arrived in Rome, I was 135 pounds. And after 4 years there, I'm something else. Anyway, as I got to travel around the world, something I learned, something that touched my heart. And I got to visit family in Germany. I have second cousins there. And I got to visit all of the places in the world. And when I went to Germany the first time, I was stricken and awed by the haunting sounds of the polka. It gets a little hard to talk about because it's emotional. And so I took up the craft of the tuba, and that is the brass thing back here. So I learned the German polka, and I'm going to play that for you right now. Okay, so I want you to listen very carefully and very closely. I also want you to look at the horn. This thing is a beautiful piece of machinery. The best part is the piece of cinnamon gum that covers the hole in the lead pipe that I put there 10 years ago. I have minty fresh breath every time I play, which is useless because I'm celibate. Anyway. A moment of silence. You're terrible at silence. Okay. Now, I thought, as many of you do, that this was the only type of polka that existed. And then when I traveled around, I found that there are traditions of polka all around the world. I also had the opportunity to study in Mexico for a while, where I discovered the Mexican polka. I'd like to play a few bars of that for you right now. As I continued my study of tuba, I found out that Asia actually has a tradition of polkas. And so I'd like to play for you, which has not been heard since communism was established in China, the Chinese polka. There you go. I think those four nuns and I should go on the road. What do you think? All right.
I'll drive the bus.
Drive the bus. I think there was a movie like that or something. Or a TV show. Anyway, so as I mentioned, as a priest in the seminary, I have had the opportunity to travel all over the world. And a few years ago, I was already a priest, and I had the opportunity to go to a marvelous, wonderful place called Las Vegas. I did not know that Las Vegas was like that. I thought it was just a place where they collected all sorts of cars. But there's all sorts of other things going there. my brother had a convention, and I was going to fly out and meet him at the convention because it was going to be a cheap vacation, and so we were going to travel separately. Now, this time I was traveling, I was a priest already, I was traveling incognito. I had my favorite t-shirt on, which said the big cheese, and I am the big cheese, and I was incognito, and I went to Southwest Airlines, and we stood in the line. Now, if you don't, I don't know if you know how Southwest works, but you have the A line, and you have the B line, and you have the C line, and as soon as you register, you get in the A line. Well, this particular point, I didn't register on time, and I was in the middle of the B. I was a solid B, right in the center. And I'm standing there, and, I'm just sort of minding my own business, and the A line's over here. I'm envying them, and the C line's over here, and I'm kind of laughing at them, because you don't know where they're going to go. And so I'm standing there, and there's this couple right next to me. And they were obviously not married, because married couples do not behave like this. Simply don't. You know what I mean? Okay. Even if you've been married a week, you know what I mean. So she looks at him, and she looks him deep in the eyes, and she says, "You are so cute." And he looks back at her, and he says, "No, you're cute." And she says to him, "No, you're cuter." And he looks back at her and goes, "Oh, you are the cutest." And the lady in front of me turns around and looks me straight in the eyes as if to say, "This is making me nauseous." Once I looked at her, I said, "No, I'm more nauseous." You see where this is going. At which point I looked at her and I said, "I think I'm the most nauseous." And it was all eye contact. The benefit was that I knew being a solid B and them being a solid C, there was no way I was going to have to sit next to these people, and I thank God, because it got even more gross after that. They were just loving and kissing on each other, and finally we got to go in, and I sat down, and I got comfortable, and this young woman comes up to me, this different young woman, and she says, "Would you mind switching me seats? I'd like to sit next to my mom and dad." And I said, "Oh, well," I said, "I would be happy to do that." So I stood up, and there was a row in the back of the plane that was completely open. I thought, "Oh, this is great. I'll be able to put my feet up. It's going to be a couple-hour flight. This will be great. I'm close to the bathrooms. Everything's going to work out great." And so I sat down, and they're about to close the doors of the plane when who gets on? The couple from hell. And they come and they sit right next to me. And I'm like, oh man. And for the first hour of the flight, I learned more in that hour. And naive young priest. Anyway, not so much anymore. And so I watched them, and finally, I didn't watch, but anyway, I was reading my magazine, couldn't help. It was like a train wreck, folks. She couldn't help. They get bored with each other, and she's sitting. She finally gets bored with him, and he goes to sleep, and and she's finally wanting to talk to me, and she turns to me and she says, "So what do you do for a living?" I turned to her, and I said, looked her right in the eyes, and I said, "I am a Roman Catholic priest." They didn't touch each other the rest of the flight. Oh, it was wonderful. Now, I've had, as all of you have had, defining moments in my life. And probably one of the most defining moments I had ever had in my life was my junior year of high school. And we had a blizzard, and I had to walk to school for a math test. And I thought, man, I don't really want to take this test. And so I walked out of the house, and I only lived about a mile away from school, or 10, and we had to walk uphill barefoot. I had to carry a giant boulder. I had to carry my tuba every time, Every time I'm carrying this tuba, and it was like 3 times that size, and rusty. It was terrible. And so I got 20 feet outside the door, and it had just been a blizzard, and I thought that I was walking on snow.